Good morning. Welcome to those of you who are gathered with us here in the sanctuary. Welcome to our guests. We're glad to have you with us today. Welcome to those of you who are online, joining us by Zoom. Whether you're nearby or far away, we are glad to welcome your presence with us today. It's good to see you. Thank you all for allowing Cindy and I to take some time away. We went to a friend's daughter's wedding down in Mancos, which is outside of Durango, and at the Echo Basin. Well, they called it a resort. I would call it a rustic resort, but we had a great time. Went over to see Mesa Verde, which I had not seen before. Absolutely beautiful, and if you read the e-note, you can still see the scars of fires that have come through there, but after 8 centuries, the housing of the natives who inhabited that area from 500 CE to 1200 CE, still very much there and present. This morning we want to remember those who are suffering from the effects of climate change. Scott is coming to light our candle. Those in the Northeast, Vermont, New York, Pennsylvania, and other areas are experiencing massive flooding from overwhelming rains. Family and friends of mine in Texas and other states across the South are enduring unimaginable heat and dryness and drought. I think there was anticipation that the thermometers in Death Valley would register the hottest recorded temperature on Earth in the history of the Earth, at least in the history of recording temperatures that we've experienced. So let's be thankful for the good watering we've received through the rains that we've had, the snow that we've had this year, and also be mindful of those who are suffering because of the extreme weather. Let's pause for prayer and breathing and just taking a moment to relax. Invite the Spirit into our presence and into the service that includes communion and being in beloved community together. May we pray and breathe. Spirit of all that is holy, Spirit of God, we invite you into our presence. Thank you for inviting us and welcoming us into your presence. Because of who we are and because of where we are on our life's journey. Thank you for this place that is sanctuary and a source of beloved community. Thank you for the people who are community. We pray for those who are suffering extreme weather challenges, those who have lost loved ones either to the floods or to the extreme heat. We pray for those experiencing war in our world and ask that they may soon experience a peace that they've not had for many years now. Most of all, we just want to say thank you for knowing all there is to know about us, for loving us the way you do, for welcoming us in the divine relationship with one another and with you. For it's in your name we pray. Amen. Yeah.
Please join me in the call to celebration. The Word is a lamp and a light. The Word illuminates our life. We welcome the Word with praise and thanksgiving. The Word comes from the heart of God and accomplishes its purpose. We hear the Word that loves and embraces, challenges and convicts, renews and restores. The Word is life, offers a future with hope, and creates peace in the midst of the storm. We receive the Word among us with a rejoicing. We celebrate the Word made flesh in the life and teachings of Jesus. We listen for new insights from the heart of the still speaking God. Please join us in the opening song, Be Now My Vision.
And let me invite you to stand, those of you who are here in the sanctuary, as we sing together hymn number 451. If you want to grab a nearby hymnal, or you can look at the words in the bulletin.
The first reading is from Matthew chapter 13, verses 1 through 9. That same day, Jesus went out of the house and sat beside the sea. Such great crowds gathered around him that he got into a boat and sat there, while the whole crowd stood on the beach. And he told them many things in parables, saying, "Listen, a sower went out to sow, and as he sowed, some seeds fell on the path, and the birds came and ate them. Other seeds fell on rocky ground, where they did not have much soil, and they sprang up quickly, since they had no depth of soil. But when the sun rose, they were scorched, and since they had no root, they withered away. Other seeds fell among thorns, and the thorns grew up and choked them. Other seeds fell on good soil and brought forth grain, some 100-fold, some 60, some 30. Let anyone with ears listen. Our next reading is a quote by Thich Nhat Hanh, and I want to thank Bob and Scott for giving me the correct pronunciation, who's a Buddhist monk and a peace activist. Your mind is like a piece of land planted with many different kinds of seeds. Seeds of joy, peace, mindfulness, understanding, and love. Seeds of craving, anger, fear, hate, and forgetfulness. These wholesome and unwholesome seeds are always there, sleeping in the soil of your mind. The quality of your life depends on the seeds you water. If you plant tomato seeds in your garden, tomatoes will grow. Just so, if you water a seed of peace in your mind, peace will grow. When the seeds of happiness in you are watered, you will become happy. When the seed of anger in you is watered, you will become angry. The seeds that are watered frequently are those that will grow strong.
Living God, touch our hearts through your words and through your spirit. Kindle our imaginations. Breathe your life into our actions as we dream, work to shape your new world. A neighbor and in some ways now a former friend, and you'll understand why in just a moment, and I were at the Louisville Street Fair Friday evening, listening to a cover band that does a lot of Tom Petty and Stevie Nicks, and it was quite interesting. And he zooms in with us frequently. I don't know if he's online today, John Abrimsky. And we were just talking, Cindy and I got there during the first break, and he goes, you know, I zoomed into your service this past Sunday. I said, great, I'm glad, we're always glad to have you, John. He's kind of a recovering Catholic, and, you know, it's always a pleasure to have him. And he said, yeah, I zoomed into your church on Sunday, and I finally got to hear a good sermon. Diane Peterson and Scott Peterson. Diane preached last week, and Diane, thank you very, very much for bringing a good sermon to my friend John Obrimsky. I can assure you he needed it. Anyway, I loved Diane's emphasis on telling our stories and how much that means to the developing of us as a community and as a beloved community. It ties in greatly with our gospel reading today. Jesus used stories, parables, to communicate And it was his pattern of teaching. And, you know, I grew up hearing this parable of the sower all the time. You know, you got to be good earth. You got to be the good soil. You got to be this. You got to be that. You're responsible for the kind of soil that your life is. And the only way to have an appropriate relationship with God is to make sure that your life is always good soil. I never could quite manage living 24/7 as good soil. I have much more fun with the weeds and the rocky paths and the occasional good soil. I'm always happy when birds partake of seeds, because that's one way that they sustain themselves. We keep sunflower seeds in our bird feeders, and we feed birds, squirrels. Oh, and the squirrels are entertaining as they get up on the feeders, and some rabbits and so forth. But this parable has a kind of a question, a big question for me. Is God the sower? Are we the soil? Are we the seeds? Are we the thorns and the stickiness? Are we the barren paths, the hard paths? Are we the good soil? And I finally have an answer to all those questions. And the answer is simply yes. And I'm not trying to cop out here. But let's just think about it for a moment. At times, we are good soil. We're open to ideas of the Spirit, to hearing sacred or recognizing sacred experiences as they're happening. You'll hear a story from Allyson later that introduces one of our closing hymn, actually. We say we're a denomination that places a comma rather than a period at the end of the word, identifying that we see God as someone, if we want to anthropomorphize the divine a little bit more, as one who is ever present, as one who is still speaking. And the background from which I came taught us that if anything was said in the text that we call sacred scriptures for Hebrew individuals and for Christian denominations, that's where God said it, and that settles it, and end of discussion. Except the problem is the people who talked about that supposedly inerrant and infallible word generally got mixed up. What they mixed up was they took their explanation of those words as being divine and inerrant and infallible, instead of recognizing that that it's the truth of the still speaking God that becomes seed for us. And the still speaking God speaks in a variety of ways. Walking among Mesa Verde and the trails that were walked by Native Americans, there was a sense of sacredness and the holy in Mesa Verde that I had never experienced before. Just the beauty of it was amazing, recognizing that Mesa Verde was created by the vast oceans of water that had the Rockies on one side and the Smokies on the other, and it would drain and fill back, drain and fill back. 74 or 75 million years ago? Wow. A lot longer than 10,000 years, as some denominations were teaching when I was a young person growing up. The title of the sermon is Planting Seeds Whose Future We May Not Experience. As we consider next steps for Wash Park, we have the opportunity to keep being seed planters that we have been for 97 years. Not us in the building. I mean, we're getting closer to 97 years, thank God. That beats the alternative by a long shot. But the reality is we're still planting seeds. And where we plant those seeds may change. But the seed planting comes through our lives and through the ministries that we do and that we support. We plant seeds of justice every Sunday when we plant our pride flags outside the sanctuary. We plant seeds of justice every time we stand up and say we want to protect children and not guns. We plant seeds every time we say LGBTQ plus individuals are created in the image of God and are as beloved of God as anyone. This week in the Washington Post, there was a story of renewal in a small kind of semi-rural Baptist church in Georgia. Now, church, the idea of church culture is much more present in many of the states of the South, Georgia, Texas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, to some degree Tennessee. There are always two questions that residents in those states want to ask, and I've lived in Texas and Mississippi and Virginia, so I know whereof I speak. Two questions generally are this: what do you do, and where do you go to church? That's not the culture of Colorado, thank God. But this church that had been dying was being reborn, so to speak. And it was being reborn by the teachings of a Baptist pastor who came out of the military and decided that his congregation, with their support, would be an open and affirming and a welcoming congregation. And yes, the other Baptist churches in the community were condemning him to hell, and the church with him. But the church was being revitalized because they were a welcoming congregation. They welcomed people because of who they are, because of where they are on life's journey. That seed of welcoming in this day of condemnation and judgment and harshness and fear and anger and heartache is a tremendous seed to continue to plant, to continue to water, to continue to advocate for. Now, how do we sow those kinds of seeds when we're talking about change? Well, we keep doing what we have been doing. We keep doing justice, climate justice advocacy. We keep doing justice, social justice for all persons. We keep advocating to protect the rights of women to make health care choices for themselves, including health care related to abortion care. Those are good seeds to plant. And we renew our strength to be able to plant those seeds by doing what our bishop, our Buddhist monk, encourages us to do. He gives a wonderful list of good seeds in his writing when he says, seeds of joy, peace, mindfulness, understanding, and love. Sounds like fruits of the Spirit in the New Testament that Paul spoke of. Sounds like now abides faith, hope, love, these three, but the greatest of these is love. Now, yes, he acknowledges the unwholesome seeds, fear, anger, hate, craving, forgetfulness. But then he speaks a word of common sense. What are the good seeds in our lives? Don't have to water them all at once. They don't all have to be the same, but pick one. Pick a seed this week that you want to water. It may be an act of kindness that no one knows about. It may be an opportunity to see in nature around you the beauty of the divine and the beauty of the Creator. It may be an opportunity to speak to someone a word of affirmation. Since Cindy and I were using Wednesday as a day off, I skipped Ed Ministry and went to the Al Green and Kev Moe concert at Red Rocks Wednesday night. I think Amy was there too. Diane and Scott Peterson were there. I mean, there's something really cool about seeing Amazing Grace with Al Green. I wasn't up there on stage with him, but Red Rocks was singing Amazing Grace with Al Green. Wow, it's not how we often hear Amazing Grace, but it was beautiful. It was amazing that as many people knew the words as apparently knew the words. Maybe we're more of a church culture in Colorado than we realize. But for 80 years, the Reverend Al Green, has planted beautiful music in our minds, in our hearts, in our lives. And he's still spreading seeds. We water the seeds in our lives in community with one another. We water the seeds in our lives by looking for the divine instead of being so caught up in the driver that cut us off. Now, I'll be honest with you, sometimes I cause other drivers to water the seeds of anger. Don't know about you, but I've been known to do that. The wisdom writers, whether it was a Greek philosopher or not, who acknowledges that societies are made great by those who are willing to plant seeds of trees under whose shade they may never sit. Part of what we're doing at Wash Park is looking for ways to plant seeds whose futures we may not be here to experience. And that excites me. And I hope it excites you. Because we are a part of a faith that has continued to be sources of hope, sources of justice, sources of love, sources of community for thousands of years. And we're just picking up the seeds of that faith. Let's pray. We give thanks today that the seeds we can plant are the seeds that we might call, as Olivia Butler did in her parable of the sower, earth seeds. Seeds that take us out into a crazy and chaotic world where we can plant seeds of faith, seeds of hope, seeds of love, seeds of justice, seeds of mercy, seeds of grace, seeds of forgiveness, seeds of peace, seeds of an eye that celebrates the divine in the simplest things around us. Thank you for calling us to a task that continues to be our future. For it's in your name we pray. Amen. The lifeblood of the community is the people. And that represents you and others who send money at various times from places near and far. I just want to say thank you for what you do to sustain this community through your presence, through your activity, through your weed pulling, through book club, through TGIFs, through all of the WHI and the work that we do in helping to feed those experiencing food insecurity and the work we do in supporting those experiencing homelessness. Thank you for continuing to support Wash Park financially as well as with all that you do personally. Now for the music of reflection for the beauty of the earth. If you're able, please stand and sing, and then we'll have our prayer of dedication and closing song.
Please join me in the prayer of dedication. Holy One, we thank you for revealing yourself to us, and through us with abundance and flourishing. Give us generous hearts, May our offerings offer a testimony honoring your and giving hope to those in need. Receive these gifts and magnify them for the needs of all of your creation. Amen.
Lee asked me to share a story that I shared with him yesterday about an experience I had with the next hymn we'll be singing, God's Eye is on the Sparrow. I don't really sing this song very much. Its theology is a bit more traditional than mine is, but most anything is a bit more traditional than my theology. But anyway, here's the story. As a part of a youth and vocation program that I helped lead at Iliff School of Theology years ago, we went on a trip to the Stations of the Cross in San Luis in southern Colorado. The Stations of the Cross is a Catholic tradition depicting Jesus' actions during the betrayal, trial, and crucifixion of Jesus. And the sculptures are nearly life-size sculptures, and they go up the side of a hill outside of San Luis. And the local folks in the community were the models for all the characters in the Stations of the Cross, including Jesus. So our group of youth that did the climb up the hill and did the stations was very, very diverse, racially, theologically, economically, and in any way you can think of. And two of our group appeared to be polar opposites. One was an upper middle class, real tough white guy from a liberal Presbyterian church, and the other was an African American young woman from a theologically conservative Baptist church in the inner city in Denver. Neither of them were Catholic, and neither of them had ever done anything around the Stations of the Cross. But we went, dutifully did the stations, and we got to the second to the last stop, which was the crucifixion of Jesus. And we all stood in silence at the foot of the cross, looking up at the figure. Then the young woman softly began to sing, "God's Eye is on the Sparrow," the whole song, all the way through. And then she finished, and we just stood there speechless. And I looked over at the tough, young, liberal white guy, and he had tears streaming down his face. It was holy ground. What could have been or seemed to have been divisions, difference among us, was overcome, and holy ground was created. That's the power of visual art and the power of music. It creates holy ground. So that's what I think of when I think of this song. I think of so many occasions where I'm surprised by sacred space. So I urge all of us to seek that wherever we might be, because holy ground is all over. Even in a song you may not sing very often.
If you're able, please stand as we sing together, God's Eye is on the Sparrow. Why should I feel discouraged? Why should the shadows come? Why should my heart be lonely and long for heaven and home? When God is ever my portion, my constant friend will be. God's eye is on the sparrow, and I know God watches me. God's eye is on the sparrow, and I know God watches me. I sing because I'm happy. I sing because I'm free. God's eye is on the sparrow, and I know God watches me. Let not your heart be troubled. Christ in the word I hear, and rest not my doubts and fears. Though by the path God leads me, but one step I may see. God's eye is on the sparrow. I know God watches me. God's eye is on the sparrow, and I know God watches me. I sing because I'm happy. I sing because I'm free. God's eye is on the sparrow, and I know God watches me. Scandalous God, sowing weeds among the crop, raising bread with impure yeast, offering treasure beyond price, casting a net that catches good and bad. Throw down our mean idols of purity and possession, and let the Son of Humanity show us your inclusive, provocative, wide-branching love. Amen.